Hello guys, Omni here. I finally got around to seeing Spider-Man Far From Home. Sorry it's taken me so long, but being a holiday week and all that, on top of this movie coming out on a Tuesday, really kind of threw things off for me and my schedule, so I apologize. And even starting this recording has been taking me a little bit of time because even after watching this, I've had to sit down and really think about my thoughts and feelings about this movie because they are all over the place. I think this is one of the best Spider-Man films, and it's easily the best performances, I think, from all the characters involved. Tom Holland, to me, is the perfect Spider-Man, especially for this age that this Spider-Man is. He's still 16 in this, and it does such a great job encapsulating all of the weight. And Tom Holland really does such a magnificent, masterful job at expressing and showing all of the weight and burden that's being placed on a 16-year-old kid that is still in high school, dealing with these cosmic level threats and all of these other things that are happening in this universe at a much younger age than he has in the comics or any of the other films or animated series or anything like that. He's dealing with a lot of things, a lot of stressful issues in such a real way, and it just really makes you feel for the kid throughout this movie. This movie runs the entire gambit of emotions, especially by the end, that really I felt every emotion in this movie. I laughed, I was sad, I was angry, I was happy, I was depressed. Ah, man, it's just rough. And the only reason I don't think this is the best Spider-Man film is because it doesn't feel, in the grand scheme of things, like a Spider-Man film. It's centered around the characters, of course. It's centered around Spider-Man himself, but he's dealing with the effects of events that happened outside of his franchise, if that makes sense. He's really the plot of this movie, the structure of this movie, and everything surrounding the characters from Spider-Man, MJ, Ned, all of his classmates, him, they are in a movie that is purely dealing with the ramifications of the greater MCU. And I think that's the only reason that it doesn't isolate itself as a pure Spider-Man experience, I think. And that's why I don't think I wouldn't personally say it's the best Spider-Man movie because of that reason. I think there's a lot of the best Spider-Man elements in this. I think this is the best representation that we have of who Spider-Man is. We see a lot of problem solving that Peter Parker has to go through to put together all kinds of different things. We get to see him use off his intelligence, his knowledge of science, and just, we know he's built his web shooters in Homecoming, that he's makeshift his own stuff, but we really see like how much he's evolved and really how smart this kid is, how he pieces together incidents and moments, and how he really just the pure ingenuity of the character and the fragility of him and his situation, how all of these things are really just finally coming crashing down on the realization that all of these things he's having to put on his shoulders and deal with while being a child, is effectively still a child with childlike wants, needs, emotions, and living in this world where so many lives hangs in the balance of a 16-year-old kid. And this movie, it just embodies that so well. And Jake Gyllenhaal, it almost steals the show in this, and surprisingly so. Not really surprisingly so at all. He, as Mysterio, is fantastic, and there's a twist and a turn to his origin for sure, but it really goes down to the core of who he is. I'm not going to go into any of the spoilers or go into too many details about that, because they do something completely and drastically different with his character, which you can probably pick up on a little bit in the trailers, that kind of plays into what happens throughout this film with him, the elementals, the the multiverse suggestions. I'm not going to confirm or deny if that's true or not. I'm going to leave that for you guys, because I really think not knowing as much as you can going into this movie makes it a much more fun ride. There's so many twists and turns, and there's some sequences in this. I can't talk about a lot of the things in this movie and not a lot of details. The set pieces are amazing. There's some of the best mind-blowing, mind-twisting sequences in this since Doctor Strange. And it's beautiful, haunting, terrifying, and just awe-inspiring all at once. And there's some things that I would love to see like in other franchises do with certain characters that have similar abilities, do even half as good as this movie's done with it. Man, this is a really hard movie to talk about without going into any spoilers at all. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, you run the entire gambit of emotions through this film, and it's really tight, it's really centered, and it has a lot of focus, and it really zones in on the character of Peter Parker, really, to a T. Like, and it's just a wild ride. Honestly, watching it, I mapped it out of a way so I didn't have to see this in 3D in order to still catch the time. I managed to make it for a 2D, but actually watching this movie, I feel like it might have been a fun watch in 3D actually, and that's something I don't say lightly, because being a four-eyed nerd, wearing 3D glasses in a theater and still being able to see the screen is still quite the feat, and just uncomfortable to go through, that I would like heavily consider watching this again in 3D for some of these set pieces and some of the things that they do in this film that are really, really interesting. Without going into any of it, I think the thing that really makes this so hard for me to really ground my thoughts on this movie at the end of the day is the mid-credit scene, which completely flips the switch. It's with most mid and post-credit scenes with a lot of the Marvel movies, they are just little tacked on cool little things, little nods to something else, maybe a quick little funny moment or something like that that's just kind of outside the film. But this is the mid-credit scene in this is a must-see. If you leave at the start of the credits, you've missed the actual end of the movie. That's all I'm going to say about the mid-credit scene, is that it is the true end of the film, not the one at the beginning. And that's why my experience of the movie completely changed once the mid-credit scene started and came to an end. It completely flipped my state of mind in that moment, and it sets up something that'll really, really affect the next Spider-Man film, and possibly, potentially, even the greater MCU as a whole. And I can't say why. The next Spider-Man is going to be something we haven't seen. Not outside the comics. Definitely not in the movies. And again, Peter's still a kid. I don't know what this is going to... I don't know what... I don't know. The post-credit scene, it really just reframes some of the things we've thought about the MCU without spoiling it or going into details. It really just, it's a big like, what's this mean? What's going on here? I think it may be kind of setting the scope and direction of the MCU going forward for phase 4 and onward. Aside from that, it's more of a head scratcher. Knowing a lot of these things couldn't like completely piece together an idea of what it might mean in the greater scheme of things. I don't think it's setting anything up. But it really just kind of like opens up, I think, the MCU and definitely raises a lot of questions that I think if you go back through the previous MCU films with this context in mind, that it might change some things. And I'm curious to see how that's going to play out in the long run. Honestly, as a film on its own, I think this movie is a 8. It's a B plus movie. The things that I think are holding it back from a 9 or 10 or an A or higher, I think are, like I said, the fact that it doesn't stand on its own legs. It's tied so much into the previous films that, and not just the previous Spider-Man films, but the previous films in the greater MCU, that it doesn't stand alone. It really doesn't. It's not self-contained. It's more than just a sequel. I don't know what it is about this film. It's hard to explain it because I can't without spoiling anything. But it's so reliant on a bunch of different franchises and the franchise of the MCU as a whole to stand on its own. That's the only reason I'm docking at any points. Aside from that, I loved this movie. I'm upset for various reasons and frustrated and with just a complete ball of and mess of emotions after walking away from the theater. And that's when you know a movie did its job. That's the intent that they wanted to get with you leaving the theater most of the time. This movie wanted you to walk away with this feeling, and if you saw it all the way through and you feel at odds with yourself, I think that's what they were going for. Because I can't. Anyway, I can't talk about it. I can't. I don't know if you guys would want to spoiler talk about this. Maybe if you do, if you want to hear my thoughts about all the spoilers of this film. I know it's only been out for a few days now, but I don't really want to talk about any of this stuff yet. Maybe next week, but if that's something you want me to do, I haven't done a spoiler talk on any of the films I've talked about yet. Mostly just because of time constraints and stuff like that, and maybe just demand as well. But let me know what you guys think. If it's something you want me to do, I'll do it. So sound off in the comments if you want that. And I want to know your guys' opinions about this movie. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I want to know what you all thought after leaving this movie. What were your favorite parts, favorite bits, some of your favorite moments from the movie? Let me know down in the comments below, or let me know what you didn't like, and we'll carry on this conversation after the video. That is it for now. If you want to support the video or support the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't like it, let me know in the comments what you didn't like, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.